o'clock. I mean, I guess that's nap time.
We gotta work overnight sometimes too.
That's fair. That's a good point. Yeah, so I mean, 1 o'clock, it's like siesta time. I like to take my afternoon naps, but I'll pull through just for you guys, okay? We'll get through it together. So, other than being sleepy, how are you guys doing? Pretty good? Taking a nap? Okay. Well, not right now. Wait like an hour, and then you can take a nap. So we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Elena Raffelli. I'm a graduate assistant with the Student Academic Resource Center. How many of you have heard of SARC? Good, good. If you're here, I would hope that you've heard of SARC because this is part of the SARC workshop series. What are some other SARC services? Let's see if you guys know them. Shout them out. Tutoring, good. What else? So I think that's like a workshop. Is it? I'm not sure. That's good too. SI, good. I like SI. The workshops. Very good. So that's called Learning Skills Consultations. Good one. Any others that you guys can think of? Opal, great. So you guys pretty much already listed them off, but so we'll go through that. So if you guys are here for Link Loot, you can go to the Goose Chase app and deal with that stuff. So some of our other resources. So SARC resources are completely free to you guys. We offer learning skills consultations, which, like he mentioned, it's a free one-on-one meeting with a graduate assistant who has been trained on learning skills and resources. And basically, you go to them, you fill out an intake form, and they kind of figure out where to steer you or what to help you with. So if you need help with time management, they'll help you with time management. If you need help with study skills, they'll go over different study skills or study strategies with you. It's basically tailored to what your needs are. And I think that they're really helpful. Yeah, learning skills consultations. So what you would do is you call the SARC front desk, and the student assistants there can schedule you with one of us. And so there's 4 of us who do these. We also have the peer tutoring, so it's offered in 3 different locations across campus. Those tend to be for like the STEM or the business classes. We also have OPAL, or Online Peer Assisted Learning, which I'm glad you mentioned because a lot of people forget about OPAL. Basically, it's for those of you who have very weird schedules. You may not be able to attend tutoring or SI on campus. Let's say you work all day, you take classes online. This is a chance for you to, once you finish your workday, you can go home, and then these sessions are held online. They're like a regular tutoring session or SI session, but it's the leader or the tutor is on the other side of the camera, and you just type your question to them. They work you through the process. It's literally like tutoring, but just in an online kind of chat room style. And those tend to be scheduled after 5 p.m. We also have supplemental instruction, or SI. It's a series of 4 weekly study sessions that trained SI leaders lead. They attend the classes with you guys so that they know exactly where you are with the material. They don't re-lecture the material, but they help you review it, practice problems, and go through your different resources to get the material. There's also ACE coaching, which is kind of like a kind of checks and balance system. So if you want someone to like constantly hold you accountable or help walk you through all the steps or like learning goals that you have, ACE coaches are undergraduate students that will meet with you on a few times throughout the semester. It depends. But basically, they will make sure that you're staying on track with your plan. And then you all have apparently heard of the workshop series because you're all here attending a workshop. But there are other academic success workshops that you can find on the website, and if you follow us on Facebook, we announce them there as well. Yeah. Sure.
Which one is the one that you said about business classes?
Peer tutoring actually offers for some finance and business classes.
Really?
Mm-hmm. So you can go on the website. Yeah, go on the website and you can see the SI schedule as well as the peer tutoring schedule. Yeah. Any questions about SARC resources? All right. So, what are we here to talk about? Procrastination. So, I'll be the first to tell you that I call myself a productive procrastinator because it makes me feel better about it. But we've all been there and procrastinated. So I like this little meme because it's like, I've done that. Watching Netflix and realize, oh no, I have something due tomorrow. I just need to finish this episode. I'm gonna do it anyway. And so you just like stressfully finish watching it, or like stressfully like you're like at the club, so you start stress dancing because you're just like, oh no, I don't know. So we're obviously all wondering more about procrastination since we're here. So what are the possible thought processes about procrastination? What goes on in your mind when you're procrastinating? Go for it.
I did this in my freshman year. Now I don't really do it as much, but basically like, oh, okay, I have this due this day, but let me do this first.
Good.
But, wait, I need to get back to this one. Like kind of like for example, if you're on one project,
Mm-hmm.
and then in the middle of it, it's like, okay, I think I did enough. Let me get on this other one.
Okay.
And you forget about that one. The next day, oh crap, it's due soon. Like I forgot about it.
That's a good point. So it's kind of mismanagement of time, or
Yeah.
like you kind of like aren't, like you're trying to be proactive, but then you just get so bogged down by it, you forget where you are.
You get bored by it, and then
Yeah.
you're like, oh, okay, let me like just relax for a little bit.
Right.
And totally forget about it.
Good. What else? Oh yeah, we got all the time in the world, right? It's like you're only in class, what, 12 hours a week? Yeah, you got plenty of time. Then you play some video games, you take a nap, you wake up, it's 9 o'clock at night, and you're like, oh no, I have a test tomorrow. Yep. What else?
I was gonna say what you said. I got time.
Yeah, all the time in the world. Yeah.
You get so stressed about how little time you have, you keep putting it off.
Very good. So you get stressed by the idea of having to do it that you're just like, I don't even want to think about it. I'm going to go do this fun thing instead. Yeah, I've been there. What else? One of my favorites, or one of my weaknesses, is that, let's say I have a class that I really don't like the material, and I have another class that I really like it because I get it, it all makes sense. So what do? The class that I don't really like, I put off, and I keep putting it off, and I'm being productive, right? Like I'm doing all my assignments for my other classes, but I'm ignoring the one that I really need to be spending more time with because I don't like it. So that's kind of like a motivation issue. Yeah.
Mine's the opposite way though.
Really?
Mine is like, okay, one class that I'm not really doing good in, like I'll study that more
Mhm.
than the one that I'm really doing good in, and
Okay.
leave it in the back burner. Even though I know the material, I'll be like, yeah, it's okay. One day
You'll be like, I got this, it's easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. So basically, you kind of have a different perspective on that. But see, all of us are different. So we kind of went over these. So if you ignore the task, it'll just go away. It won't take that long. We got all the time in the world. We'll just do it later. Some people have the idea that you only need a C to get C's get degrees, right? So you just need to pass the class. You don't care about it. It doesn't pertain to you. Just pass it. Or my favorite one, I work better under pressure, so I'll just save the studying until the night before. It'll be fine. I've said that before. So how do you convince yourself that procrastination is beneficial? So we've all kind of gone over this. So it's for my wellness. Like I'm so stressed, I just need to take a break. Or I work hard, I deserve this break. I studied for 30 minutes, so I get to go play video games for 2 hours. That makes sense. Or it's so easy, it can wait. I think you said that. Or it's too hard to concentrate right now, so I'm just going to ignore it or put it off. So is procrastination really beneficial for us? I think we all can agree. Like that's why we're here, right? It's not good. So some barriers are going to happen. So if you procrastinate, things are going to start building up. The stress is going to start building up. And then things are going to get in the way of your productivity, or things are going to distract you. So what are a few examples of things that might get in the way of productivity or distractions? Binge watching Netflix, good. What else? Eating, yeah. I mean, if you love food or you go out to eat every single meal, that takes up time. You do have to eat, but
I mean,
Because it turns on your brain.
that's
I am
fair.
eating there because I was just eating my lunch.
That's a good point. What else? Going out with friends, yeah. Work, yeah, that's a good one. So work it's productive, right? You're working, you're making money, you have to do it. But it might get in the way of your school. That's a really good one. Any others? Going to the gym, you got to work out, right? Your phone, that's a big one. So the phone is such a huge distraction. It's like one of the best evils that we all possess. So basically, what really matters, though, about procrastinating or all these barriers is how you manage it. So what are you going to do to overcome it? And I like this little picture if you guys can see it. So basically, you wake up, and this is like your daily path, or like your what's going to happen in the day. So a person who gets A's, they're going to get a barrier, and they're going to overcome it, and they're going to successfully overcome it and thrive from it and learn from it, and they're going to make it to the end of the day and be totally happy. Someone who gets a B's, they just kind of slip around the barriers, they avoid it, they do whatever it takes to just kind of get by. And then C's, a barrier hits them and everything just falls apart. Like their stack of stuff to do is this high and it just came crashing down. So I like this little picture here. So why do we procrastinate? We have too much to do, so we do nothing instead. We have a lack of motivation. We don't like the class, so why are we doing this? What's the point? This isn't even pertaining to my major, that kind of stuff. If you're disorganized, I used to be really disorganized, but I learned very quickly that in order to succeed in college, I needed to start using a binder and get all my stuff together and have it neat where I can find it. Because otherwise, how many of you like had that book bag that you open it up and just papers fall all out of it and you're like, okay, I need this one specific thing. Let me rustle through all these pages and try to find that one paper. And you get so mad at yourself because you're just digging pages out and throwing stuff everywhere. We don't want to be that person. And then there's also the issue of perfectionism. So you may think, well, if it's not going to be perfect, I just don't want to do it. And then you just quit before you've even started it. So if not now, when are you going to do this stuff? So tomorrow is a mythical place. It never happens. We've all heard that before. So this is what I meant by I'm a productive procrastinator. If I have something I don't really want to do, I might start cleaning, which that's good, right? I need to clean, but it's not necessarily the right time for it. So the 6 steps of procrastination are false security. It's like, oh, I got this. I got plenty of time. And then you're like lazy. So I could do this in my sleep. Like it's fine. And you come up with excuses, and then you're in denial, like, oh, I don't need sleep. I'll just drink a bunch of coffee. I'll stay up the night before. It'll be fine. And then you hit crisis mode, and then you just repeat the cycle the whole semester. So basically, how are we going to combat this procrastination? And these are all the things that I do to help me stay sane, as well as stay on top of all of my work. So I have to stay motivated. So what motivates you? I have to manage my time efficiently, especially since I work too. Set goals, know why you're doing this, and you have to be self-disciplined. So if you come up with a goal for the semester, you have to be disciplined enough to stick with it. It won't be easy to try and get into a habit, but you're gonna have to do it. So let's talk about motivation. So some questions to provoke motivation, and I'm not gonna ask you guys to answer these out loud, but I just want you to think about it. What made you decide to attend college? Why are you here right now? What is your dream job? What areas do you think you could improve in? So we all know we're here for procrastination, so maybe that's one area. Do you know what's holding you back? So what is the thing that is making you procrastinate? What is the thing that's making it so that you're not achieving all that you potentially can? And how do you convince yourself to get out of bed or put your phone down? So that's one of those self-discipline things. So there's several self-defeating behaviors that college students have, and I'm telling you, I'm guilty of these too. Sometimes we don't have a fixed schedule for studying, so we just we go to our classes, and then we're done for the day, right? But no, we have to be studying, we have to be proficient and use our time efficiently. We don't always read the textbooks, or we wait until a day or two before the exam and try to read 300 pages, and it's just way too much to read in too little time, and it's not possible. It's not using your time effectively. We procrastinate, and a lot of times we are our own worst enemies when it comes to our schooling. So this is a question for you guys. What is an attitude? What's the definition of attitude? Snap the fingers, yep. Any ideas? Just in your own words.
How you approach something?
Good. How you approach something, how you see something. So it's a state of mind, mental position related to a fact, or beliefs, habits associated with particular objects. And honestly, this is the biggest thing that I've seen, is that we really are our worst enemies. We limit ourselves because whenever you have a negative attitude towards something, you're basically setting a bar for yourself. It's like, oh, I'm stupid, like I can't do this. And as soon as you say that, it's like you've already given up. You haven't even tried yet. So you have to change that to a positive outcome. Like, this is difficult, but I can do this. I can work hard and I can achieve this goal that I've set. So this is a model for change. And I'm going to go ahead and pass around these pages for you guys. If you could take one and just pass it around. But I want you to take a minute, and we're each gonna think through these. And if you have a pen, write on the back of this paper. Try to answer some of these questions for yourself. I can try to help pass it around a little quicker. Can I grab like half of those? Or all of them. I'll start passing around from the back. So go ahead and flip this paper over and try to answer some of these statements. So first off, you have to identify a negative or limiting statement. So for example, this is too difficult, I can't do this. And you need to declare to yourself that you intend to change. So I'm going to make an effort to try to do this. Identify at least 3 people who you believe have positive attitudes. So they can be friends, family, they can be different role models, whoever you think has a positive attitude that you can kind of build off of. List 3 behaviors or actions that can make people believe you have a new attitude. You don't have to list 3, but basically, what are some things that you can do to try to change your attitude, to try to turn it around from negative? So, for example, if you're saying that you don't think you can do this, one way that you can prove to people that you're trying to change that mindset is by saying, I can do this. Or by actually sitting down and trying to force your way through it, even though it's hard. Describe some situations in which you have used the behaviors listed. List 3 people you could talk to about changing it. So having a support system is really key for this. So basically, you need to find someone you trust who you can go to with like, I'm really struggling with my motivation for these classes. Like, I don't think I'm smart enough to be here. I don't think I can do this. Find someone who can kind of force you to see that you can do it, that you can stick to your goals. And then I think the biggest or the most important thing on here is find a way to reward yourself. So if you're struggling with a class and you say, I can't do this, but then you start working towards it, you start trying and building upon it, you got to reward yourself for reaching your goal, right? That's how you're going to keep doing it. Basic psychology. So I know that some of you are still writing. Do you guys need another minute? Yes? All right. So take your time. While people are writing, is there anyone who wants to share what they've written so far? Go for it.
Negative statement. Oh, why I can't do this? I used to do better.
Good. So comparing it to before.
3 people that. Well, I missed 2. I don't know.
It's okay.
3 people who believe to have positive attitudes. Oprah.
Oprah, that's a good one.
My best friend, Care Dad, and my mother.
Good. So some personal people you know and Oprah.
And then 3 behaviors or actions to make people believe that you have a new attitude is positive, happy, and goal-oriented.
Good. Very good.
What's to it actually about?
2 says declare to yourself that you intend to change. It's more of just saying that I'm going to do just as well as I used to, or I'm going to, you can even change the statement and go, while I might have done better before, it's not realistic for me to do as good now, so I'm going to set a new goal or a new standard for myself. All right. Ready to move on? Okay. So basically the point of this is to show that these are the steps for how to change your attitude for something. So the first key step is changing from that negative attitude to something more positive, reminding yourself that you can do this, creating that support system to help remind you that you can do it. So life can be very overwhelming. How many of you have seen a meme or something similar to this? Like the triangle that it's like pick 2, either like sleep and fun or good grades, and you have to pick 2 of them. So this tends to be what I do, where it's like I try to do everything and then it just gets too crazy and then I end up just like laying in bed watching TV. But we have time. So we're gonna switch over and start talking about some time management. So we have plenty of time in the week, right? There's 168 hours in a week. Let's say you're taking 4 3-credit hour classes, so you're in class for 12 hours a week. Let's say you sleep 8 hours a day, which I don't know many people who do in college, but let's just say that you sleep 8 hours a night. And each meal, let's give you an hour between like prepping it and eating it. So if you subtract those out from the total hours in a week, you still have 79 hours left. So let's say you work 20 hours a week. And then you spend 25 hours socializing or relaxing, doing fun stuff. So that's basically, what's that, like 3.5 hours a day having fun. That still leaves you 34 hours for studying. So we may have plenty of time, but it really is just how we use it. So some time management principles. You need to assess your current use of time. So kind of take a look and reflect at how you're spending your time each day. Do you go to class and then immediately go home and take a nap, play video games, go hang out with your friends, and then get home at 9 p.m.? It's like, oh wait, I have all these assignments to do. Or do you spend all your hours on campus and forget to have fun? So it really comes to like a balance. So you need to create like a routine or a schedule that it can be flexible. So maybe your hours shift week to week for work, or maybe some weeks you study more because you have an exam coming up as compared to others. You need to track assignments and deadlines. So I always say from syllabus week, you already have assignments that you should be doing. Not necessarily the ones the professor gives you, but you should be taking note of all of those exam dates or quiz dates or assignment dates that are in the syllabi and writing them down somewhere that you can see all of them. That way you have like a go-to sheet for all that information. So you need to make sure you're planning ahead, you're breaking down assignments. So kind of like what she said, how she'll do like half of an assignment, but you need to make sure that you go back and finish the other half. So my example for this is whenever I have to read a textbook, I hate reading textbooks. Like I start reading it and let's say it's 40 pages. After about 10 pages, I'm distracted. I'm like watching a bug fly around the room or I'm like on my phone. So I break down those pages. If I know I can only read 10 pages before I start going crazy, I will read 10 pages a day for 4 days, and that'll get me through the entire chapter. But I have to plan my time around that. And then I reward myself afterwards. So I'll read the 10 pages and take notes on it and be very active and involved in that. And then once I finish it, I can go back on my phone. I can go play a round of Fortnite, whatever I want to do. And whenever I say, like, pick my phone back up, I will literally put my phone on silent and put it, like, in the kitchen or, like, across the apartment from where I am. I don't want it near me because I will get distracted if I see it light up. And so basically, you want to kind of follow these principles, and then each month reassess how you've been using your time. Are you using it effectively? It's okay if you slip up sometimes, but did you give yourself enough time to account for that? So you need to define your priorities as well. So we all know you got to go to class. So that's a definite. You have to be there at that specific time every single week. Let's say you also work, and you have to be there too. So you kind of need to make a list of all the things you do on a weekly basis that you're required to do. And then from there, you can start building in your study time or your free time as well. So I believe this, so we'll go over a full week scheduler, but basically you can use, I use Google Calendars. I know that there's calendars on iPhone, there's Outlook, there's a ton of different online calendars. I also use a physical calendar too. So it's whatever works for you. Find a system. If you prefer using a whiteboard every week, put a whiteboard in your apartment. They're really cheap. And you can just write your schedule down there. So, like I said, classes, those are definites. You have to put those in first. Then you can put in your work schedule. After that, we all have to eat, right? So we put in our food. And then after that, we can schedule in our study time. But I suggest being very specific with what you're going to study. Don't just say, study. Because what are you going to study? How long are you going to study? So if you sit down to study at your desk, and the calendar just says study, you're like, okay, now what do I do? Maybe you spend the next 30 minutes flipping through stuff until you find something to do. But if you already have planned ahead, for example, Sunday I'm going to go to the math lab. Monday I'm going to go to tutoring. I'm going to study chapter 12 for my math test. If you're very specific, you know exactly what you're going to do whenever you get to those study sessions. It's a lot easier to be productive in them. And then after that, you can schedule in your workouts, football games, chocolate club meeting, if that's a thing. I really hope it is. Or basically your fun stuff. And then you're allowed to have computer time or me time. You can go to the movies or hang out with your friends. So this is just an example of a schedule, but do whatever works for you. And also spread out your schedule. So I've done this before where I've taken on way too much. I bit off more than I could chew. I was a treasurer in a club, and that took up way more hours than I realized. At the same time, I was doing research on campus, and it was just way too much. So learn to say no. Even if an opportunity presents itself, you're going to have to figure out what's in your best interest. And be cautious of your work hours too. So if you're allowed to work a maximum of 30 hours a week, and every single week you're working those 30 hours, when are you studying? It's nice to get those big paychecks at the end of the week, but it's even better if you don't have to retake a class and have to repay for it, because then it's more expensive. And just be realistic. So like I said, I know that I don't like reading textbooks. It's going to take me a while to read through 10 pages effectively. So do I say, oh, I'll just read it for 30 minutes. That'll be fine. No, you have to plan effectively for it. Use your time wisely. And how do you stay on track? So I already mentioned some of these, but use a planner, a calendar. Web Courses has a built-in calendar system as well, where if your assignments are all submitted online, they should be on that calendar view. Or your phone. I know a lot of people who like to set like notifications or reminders on their phone or alarms for when they have to do certain things. Yeah.
You can actually link your Web Courses calendar to your Microsoft
Oh, really?
Outlook calendar, as long as it's up to date.
Okay.
You can just add it as a file, and it'll be right there with your work schedule, tell you what's due.
Cool.
So that's also something you could put. I went to one session, so.
Oh, okay. That's a really good point. Did everyone hear? She said you can link your Web Courses calendar to your Outlook calendar. That's really...
It says like export file, and then
Okay.
save it, and then you can actually upload it on the calendar.
Okay. I'm going to have to try that.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
cool.
I like that, because I do use a calendar on my phone too.
It's all color coordinated, everything, color
Right.
coordinated.
I do. I'm a very visual learner, so I like my colors. I even take notes in different colors.
Yes.
So basically the whole point of this is we want to work smarter, not harder, right? If we're naturally procrastinators, it's because we don't want to put in that much effort. So how are we going to spin that? So we basically need to find a way to more effectively use the time that we've allotted ourselves and still have time for fun. So how many of you use a planner? Just out of curiosity. Okay, for those of you who don't, can someone give me a good reason why you don't? Go for it.
Procrastinated on making it.
You procrastinate on making it. That's fair. Any others? It is time consuming.
That's why I have my planner in my.
So you keep it all up here?
Yeah,
Okay.
I learned how to do that.
Okay, so you have a little teeny tiny notebook. Good. So I like the planner because it's so satisfying to like have a list of things you have to do on that day and be able to go like that and just cross it off. And it's just, I love it. If you get a small enough one, you can just stick it in your pocket or in your purse. Like they come like this big. Like he had a little notebook. The bookstore sells some. You can get one on Amazon for like $3. So you can even make one if you wanted to. Like it's really not that difficult. Like it doesn't have to say planner on the front and be a nice fancy cover. Like it could just be like a cheap 50-cent notebook. And then we already mentioned some of the electronic help for it. I also like to use sticky notes on my computer. So if I know that I've found that sometimes if I go on my computer to do an assignment or do something, I'll like go in this really weird roundabout way. Like I'll end up on like YouTube or just like, I don't know what happens. Like I just go down these rabbit holes. So I have to remind myself with like a sticky note of why I'm getting on my computer. That way I make sure I do those things because otherwise like I'll just completely forget. Yeah.
Is this also sort of kind of in the same, well, I don't make planner and stuff or nothing, but I do sticky notes, but not for school, like,
Just for life.
yeah, like doctor appointments or.
Yeah, I mean, sticky notes are great reminders, so it's kind of like that, yeah. But I still like using the planner for my school stuff, too. So I kind of already mentioned this again, but breaking down assignments is really important. This really does help to avoid those cram sessions the night before an exam or at 11 p.m. whenever an assignment's due at 11:59. But know that so what I suggest is whenever you get a new assignment, look at when the due date is. Look at how much the assignment entails. You don't have to start it right away. But then think to yourself, how long is this going to take me? What am I going to have to do for this assignment? And then break it up into chunks over a reasonable amount of time. If you know that you don't have classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays, maybe you work on it on Tuesday and Thursday during the week, whenever it's due on Friday. So it's whatever works for you. And make sure that you're able to concentrate when you're studying too. So we all have those distractors. For me, I know my phone's a distractor. Sometimes I'll end up playing Fortnite instead of working on a programming assignment. I don't know what happens. Hunger can be a distraction too, just general boredom, like not liking what you're doing. But you have to find a way to force yourself to concentrate. Whether that's staying on campus and getting a study room at the library and working on stuff there, or if you work best in study groups, because then people hold you accountable to what you're actually working on. Find something that works for you to help you concentrate and stay focused. Some people do well while listening to music. Other people, the music distracts them. So it really depends. So definitely try to avoid those distractions, yeah.
When I went to the study workshop, like study tips,
Mhm.
she told me, I don't know, I think about a lot of things when I'm doing homework, so make a like a worry sheet.
Good,
You can write down what you're thinking about,
good.
or what's going on in your head, and then at least you get it out, and then
Mhm.
you can look at that later. Say, oh, I gotta, whether it's a bill
Good.
or an appointment.
Very good.
So
So
I get distracted when you start
yeah.
finding anything distracting.
That's a great point. And that's how I use my planner in a sense. I almost use my planner as like a checklist of things that I have to do. So like I'll keep it open on my desk while I'm working on assignments. And if I think of something, it's like, oh wait, I know I have to do this by tomorrow. I'll write it down really fast. That way while I'm studying, I'm not constantly going back to it to be like, oh, I can't forget this. I need to remember to do this. So that's, sticky notes are good for that. Just a piece of paper, yeah. So a worry sheet's a really great idea. So some more tips for concentration. So intend to study for a certain amount of time. So sit down at your desk, put on your headphones if that's what it takes, and go, I'm going to sit here for an hour and study blank, study this material. So have it ready. So have pens accessible, be organized with it. I like to study in quiet places because otherwise I get distracted. I'm a very visual person, so if I'm studying and people are walking around and there's a lot of like rustling or movement, like I get distracted by visual things. So I need to make sure like I pretty much have just a blank wall behind my computer. That way I have no distractions. And vary your study activities. There's nothing worse than sitting down for 4 hours and working on the same assignment for 4 hours straight. How many of you have been there? It's so exhausting. So what I'll do is I'll work on it for an hour, and if I notice that I'm starting to get bored with it or starting to get annoyed, I'll switch to a different assignment that I also have to do. And that way it changes it up. You don't like that? It's whatever works for you. So I like to, yeah, and that's actually my next point. So you can make sure that you're taking study breaks. So don't just sit there for 4 hours and try to study. Schedule your breaks. So I used to take sticky notes and put them at certain points in my textbook as I was reading it. And once I hit a sticky note, I could take a 5-minute break. I could go grab a snack. I could watch a YouTube video. I could do whatever I wanted for 5 minutes and then get back on my studying. But the thing with that is it takes self-discipline to not let that break extend to 2 hours. And then you go down the YouTube rabbit hole and you're watching videos about giraffes and you don't know why. How many people have done that before? Yeah, we've all done it. So basically take breaks and remember to reward yourself. So give yourself time during the week to have fun, to play video games, to read a book, to go out, just do whatever you like to do. So now we're going to take a look at the papers that I handed you guys. So this is the back planning or the 3-list method. It's pretty quick, but I want all of you to think of a long-term goal. So what is a goal that you have for the semester? For example, I want to get an A in this class. Okay, so that's your long-term semester goal. And then what you do is you break it down into weekly tasks or more manageable chunks. So a weekly thing that you could do then would be to study for 8 hours a week, if that's what works for you. And then you break that further into a daily task. So for example, you can go to tutoring 3 times a week, and that will help you study so that you can get an A on your test so that you can get an A in the class. So go ahead, and I want everyone to come up with a semester goal and then how you're going to implement it. And I'll put the example up here. So let's say it's make the president's list. So the weekly task list will include get an A on your next bio exam, or this is just a weird example. And then how you allocate that time daily. Okay, who wants to share their example? Go for it.
To get my GPA at least at 3.0 this semester.
Okay. And so what's your weekly task goal?
In one of my classes, I have to try to get an A on the second exam
Okay,
for it to like get there.
good. And how are you going to do that on a daily basis?
Well, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday,
Good. Very good. And so this kind of is a really nice parallel that goes with the full week schedule that we talked about, where you can kind of plan your studying within that. So that's what I mean by like specifying what you're going to study when you're going to study it. So let's move on. So just a summary about time management. So you got to know what your goals are. So why are you doing this? What do you need to do? Determine the priorities within them. If you're planning ahead, you can anticipate or like give yourself enough time for something to happen. So you can kind of like Murphy's Law, like you can plan for the worst. So let's say you get the flu 1 week, but you've been studying already, so it's okay if you take a few days off. Commit to the punctuality and timeliness and carry out the plan that you make. So that is the key for this. You have to create the plan and then stick with it. If you don't stick with it, then you just wasted your time. So that's really important. And recognize that you're in control. So you're the only one making you do this. So you have the power to change your schedule too. So if your plan isn't working for you, change it. Find a different way to go about it. If you don't study at all on the weekends, yeah, I know the lights just shut off. If you don't study at all on Saturday or Sunday and you're like, it's by principle, like my weekend is for me to have fun, but you're too busy during the week, sometimes you've got to give and you've got to work, let's say 5 hours on Sunday. So even just like a small chunk like that, or just like rearranging your time can help. So the key thing here, like I said, is the self-discipline aspect. So you need to find a support team. So we have several different resources to help you guys with this. Like I said with SARC, we have the ACE coaching, which is essentially like an accountability system. So you'll meet with an undergraduate student who can kind of remind you of your goals and be like, hey, have you done this yet? You said you were going to do this. You need to be studying. And they'll remind you of these goals so that you kind of like, okay, I know, I can't procrastinate. I need to stay on this. Your professors are a great support system too. Go talk to them in office hours. You can really figure out what they think you need to be doing in class or outside of class to succeed. If they think that you're studying too hard and that you should be studying something completely different, listen to what they have to say. Advisors, career services, CAPS is another great resource. If you're having distractors or other things outside of like actually understanding the academics, so let's say really high anxiety or depression, you can go to CAPS and it's a free service and they'll meet with you and help you with those issues. There's also UCF Cares, and you have friends and family. So we talked about creating a support system. We also have different resources online on SARC Online. This is where you can also see information about scheduling learning skills. And then finally, my information and the SARC phone number. So that's the number you can call if you want to schedule any learning skills or anything like that. Are there any questions? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pass around these sheets. These are evaluation sheets pertaining to the workshop. I'll move out of the way, I'm sorry. If you guys could, fill it out fully. If there's anyone or any department that needs to know that you were here and you know their name and their email, put it on this form, okay? If you need me to sign papers,